Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and I've been playing Gravity Rush for the Nintendo Switch for a few days now. And as I play this game, I gotta admit that it's making me regret having sold some of the Switch games that I used to have in my collection. Now, I had a very niche Switch collection that was made up of mostly retro themed, side scrolling, platforming, beating 'em up, run and gun shooters and space shooters. It's primarily what I had. And there are a few games that I'm kind of mad that I sold, and I may have to get a few of those games back. And this game just kind of reminds me of a few of them. Now, two I've already mentioned on the channel. One is Steel Assault, which is it's really just a action platforming game where the main character uses this grappling mechanic to make his way through pretty much all the levels. You have to use that grappling hook pretty much on every level to get through some part of it. And you actually need to use it to beat some of the bosses. I think even to get past the first boss, you have to use that grappling mechanic. So it's really cool. And then your other weapon is this whip that you have, this energy charged plasma whip, which is really cool. So Steel Assault is definitely one that I want to get back into the collection. Another one that I want to get back into the collection is Narita Boy. That is another one that I'm a little burnt that I sold. Need to get that one back. And then there are a few Metroidvania style games that I wound up selling that I kind of wish I could get back. Eldorand is one. There's another one, not Afterlife, is it After Earth? I can't remember. There are a few. I'll list them down. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a 2024 Nintendo Switch collection, because I did keep most of the Switch games that I were near and dear to me, because after a while, a lot of the Switch Metroidvanias do become redundant and a lot of them feel the same. As a matter of fact, they just released The Last Faith not that long ago. And for those of you who know, The Last Faith is kind of like a Dark Souls side-scrolling Metroidvania hack and slash style game. And there are a few games that are built just like that game. You've got Moon, what is it called? Geez, why am I drawing a blank on everything? There are a few games like that. I know, but a lot of those games that just like The Last Faith, a lot of them are kind of clones of Blasphemous. Blasphemous was the originator, in my opinion, for the new age Metroidvania style game, right? I think the animations that you see in Blasphemous, the main character in Blasphemous, the background characters, the scenery, Blasphemous is top tier when it comes to that 2D pixelated Metroidvania side-scrolling Dark Souls hack and slash style game. I don't know if there's another game that's done it better than Blasphemous. If you think there's one out there that has, let me know. I think the Last Faith, which is a recent release, I think that they tried, but it doesn't come close to Blasphemous. And then Blasphemous 2 obviously just takes it up to a whole nother level. So but yeah, there are definitely some games that I wanna get back into the collection, and there are actually some newer games that I want to add to the collection as well. One of them being Tevi. That is a newer game for the Switch, and I believe they said that game is kind of basically a somewhat of a sequel to Robbie Ribby, which is a action platformer that I actually have that game on the Vita and on the PlayStation 4. I don't know if Robbie Ribby came out on the Switch. If it did, someone let me know down in the comments, but I know it definitely came out on PlayStation platforms. So Tevi is one game that I want to get, and then another game, Iron Meat. Pause. That is another game that I want to get as well. That one is from Strictly Limited. I really fell back from a lot of like I said, the Switch pickups. There have been so many awesome, modern retro type of games that have released on the Switch platform, but I've just had to really just keep myself from pulling the trigger and picking those games up, just because I've been hyper focused on um, picking up, adding more to the retro collection, which has been going well. You know, to be honest, September's been a great month. I'm not mad at any of the retro stuff that I picked up this month. I've shown it in like every video that I've created since I picked this up. But Rapid Reload, so stoked to add this to the collection. You guys don't understand how dope that game is. That game is sick, seriously. Rapid Reload, like I mean, if they release this right now, if they released a game like that on the Switch right now, it would be a top seller, man. Just because it's kind of like a modern day Gunstar Heroes with grappling, you know, mechanics and bombs, and just it's sick. But be that as it may, definitely thinking about some Switch games that I want to pick up. Not gonna go crazy, not gonna build my collection back up anywhere close to what it was, because my old Switch collection was wild, man. It was, I think I had like 400 Switch games at one point. I had a ton of limited editions and, you know, special edition games and stuff like that, but it was just taking up too much space, and I just needed to let a lot of those go. But I did keep the ones that were most important to me. Like, I kept all my Blasphemous games. I kept The Messenger, which is another great game on the Switch. Dust and Elysian Tale, another great game on the Switch. There are a few. So I think what I'll do is I'll probably just do like a 2024 Switch collection, just so you guys can see some of the stuff that I have. There are some really cool games out there though for the Switch. One of my favorites, Inmost. That's a super rare game. Haiku, which is another super rare game. Some really good ones. So definitely going to show some of those to you guys, and you know, get some feedback. You guys can let me know what you think of the collection. It's a small collection. I've only got like 50 Switch games, maybe 50 to 75 Switch games. I sold like the bulk of my collection. I got it out of here. Yeah, so that's pretty much where we're at there. And, you know, just thinking about the Switch, you know, I put up made a video earlier talking about how video games aren't collectible. Like, my titles don't necessarily always reflect how I feel about the topic. I usually make a title to spur conversation, right? To start the conversation and get feedback, you know, on the topic. And a lot of you know, kind of voiced, you know, different opinions about video games being viewed as collectibles and how they compare to other collectibles, like, you know, baseball cards and, you know, comic books and things like that. And I think the most, you know, the most balanced comment, and I think the most accurate to me, in my opinion, again, this is all subjective. We all have our own opinions on stuff, but I do think that because video games are so new, you know, the comment was basically stating that, like, this is going to be the first generation here in 2024 where people can look 30 years back, right? Like in 1985, a dude who was in his 40s couldn't look back to 1950 and think about all the video games he played in 1950 because they never existed, right? But things like comic books and baseball cards have been around since the 50s, 60s, 70s. You know, they're a lot older than video games. And because of the newness of video games, they just don't have that broad of, or that, I don't even know if I want to say that broad of an audience, but they just don't have the history. You know, enough time hasn't passed where there are multiple generations of people who have built and kept collections of video games. And I think when you think about that concept, or that thought process, in a way that makes, you know, collecting physical video games even more important. Because think about this, I mean, video games are going digital. They're going to go digital. Baseball cards, comic books, I don't know if those are going to go digital anytime soon. Those are hobbies, you know, basketball cards, baseball cards. Those are hobbies that are still very much physical, where you're collecting a physical thing. Whereas physical video games that we're used to are becoming extinct. Pretty soon they're gonna start making consoles that are digital only. And it's kind of crazy to think that a hobby that's only been around since maybe the 80s is now probably going to be extinct by the time we probably hit the 2030s. And so, how much more important will that make the 50-year physical run of video games, right? Let's just say video games only has a 50-year run of being physical items that you can collect. And by the time we hit 2030, 2035, 2040, it's all digital. I think that's going to make this stuff even more important because it will be a 50-year gap in history where we had these physical things called video games. And I think people will probably look back on them even more fondly in 2070, in 2075, in 2080. Of course, I'm purely hypothesizing here. No one has a crystal ball, no one can see the future. But if you can extrapolate from some of the comments that we've had down below, I think it's reasonable to argue that that's a possibility. But you all let me know down in the comments. We've already started a great conversation around it. I'm interested to know what you think. It's Friday and it's the last Friday of the summer. It's sad. It sucks that the best days of the summer were all in September. That's such a bummer, right? Hopefully we have a really great fall and a very smooth winter. And hopefully you got to enjoy your summer and this summer was great for you. I think maybe this weekend I'll do a summer wrap up or recap of maybe the best games that I picked up this summer. There's a few video ideas I have. I definitely want to do a Switch collection video, and I definitely want to do like a summer recap video of maybe some of my best pickups and share those with you guys. Let me know what video you'd like to see me do over this weekend, and I promise it won't be one of these on the fly videos. What type of video would you like me to drop this weekend? Let me know down in the comments and I'll try to cook something up for you. But that does it for me. It's the Y2K Collector. Enjoy your evening.